You want to talk on this? You want to wait till next month? What do you want to do? Mr. Gardner, Delta Vision Foundation.
Charles, before you begin, let me thank staff for the presentation. And Chris, it sounds like the core membership and the charge and the how will all be deliverables at the December meeting.
Yes, they will.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members.
Hit your mic button if you will. Wait a minute. You got a scientist here helping you out.
Thank God we have a science program. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. It's good to be back here. We have really tried very hard to be supportive of implementation of this implementation committee. In fact, we recommended that you take steps to implement it during development of the Delta plan. We've really tried to be constructive. I'd like to try to be constructive here, but you're making it hard. That the overemphasis on process is really challenging. I think that our support of the Delta plan, the final Delta plan, considered that there were 5 important things that you were deferring from the Delta plan for implementation after completion of the Delta plan. And those are near-term actions, performance measures, a levy investment strategy, implementation committee, and a finance plan. And 4 of those 5 things are directed to you by the legislation. And so it's extremely challenging to continue to support this effort when there are, I think, 4 key things for making the implementation committee work, and there's only partial discussion of these things. The first is the participation, and I think you are working on that. I appreciate, Randy, that you've been going around and meeting with people, and I know the relationship building that you have to do, and I think that's an important thing and needs to continue. I think you need to define some criteria for participation to address the issues the chairman was just discussing. Everybody wants to be on it, but I think the time is to move forward. I think you've worked on the participation part. The action focus is critical. And so it's disturbing to me that 7 months after the Delta plan, staff doesn't have a clear sense of what actions are we focused on in the implementation committee. Randy, I know you've spoken eloquently in the past about focusing on actions. You've had lists of actions. So to have something now before you that doesn't include, here are the actions that we really want to move on. I would hope that you've been talking about that with the potentially participating agencies and identified from them what do they want to work on. I think you've been doing that, but both those things, both the staff work on the Delta plan should be able to bring forward, here are the priority things that we need to implement, and I would suggest it's those list of 5 things that were important to us. And I think you could come back with information from the agencies that said these are the things that they really want to work on, and put those 2 things together and have a real focus of your action plan. So it's troubling that we're 7 months after the Delta plan and we haven't focused on that yet. The schedule, I know you all, it was kind of comical how the schedule discussion went back and forth, and we don't really know when this thing is going to start. We got to do some more things. We're going to defer the charge of the group until next month. Put a stake in the ground, make it happen. And I think you have support of other agencies, but the best way to test that is to hold the first meeting, and let's get on with it. And the last thing I would mention that I think isn't in this is some type of escalation process. I think it is great, as several people mentioned, that the governor has put forward a charge to the agencies. That's an important step. But what's your process when agencies don't show up? And how are you going to escalate within the administration to make that happen? Or if they start sending more and more junior people and this thing gets sidelined. What's your process for escalating those issues?
What's your recommendation?
I think there has to be an escalation process.
I got that. What's your recommendation?
I think you be explicit about it.
Death penalty or something less than that? I mean, it's a perennial question, Chuck, and give us some ideas.
Yeah. Well, I think the first is that many of you have connections with the legislature and the governor. So it's using those connections. And it is that moral suasion that Mr. Nordoff
That's one.
recommended. I think another one is a more specific charter of the group and gaining the commitment in writing for participation.
Okay.
So those are a couple. And if that turns into an MOU, there are lots of legal mechanisms for that. But fundamentally, you're getting people to sign and commit to their role in it. So you're moving it beyond, isn't this a nice thing we're all getting together, and making it more specific. But those are a couple. I'll think of some more. So.
All right.
Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else, ladies? Okay.